Members, House Bill 70 was my House Bill 544 last year. That passed out of this committee overwhelmingly in the House, unanimously in the Senate, and was ultimately vetoed by the governor. I maintain then, and I maintain now that it's a lack of understanding of this bill, and that it is not an effort to roll back JRI, but rather to tweak what I think is an unintended consequence in JRI and allow those particular felons who most need to benefit from the programs that JRI Savings is investing in. These are the prisoners that need it most. Our parish jails, DOC, they're revolving doors for this class of felons, that being nonviolent felony offenders that have 4 or more felony offenses. JRI has done nothing to change this. If my bill passes, anyone with 4 or more nonviolent felony offenders still receive good time, but at a reduced rate of 1 day for every 3 days served, and would be eligible for parole after serving 65%. It simply makes no sense that we're treating these offenders the same as first-time offenders. And I'd ask for your favorable passage.
Hello again, Natalie, the Board Department of Corrections. First of all, I want to say thank you to Representative Villio. She has met with Secretary LeBlanc and we had a very productive meeting in understanding both sides' goals here today, just to prevent some general data information so you're aware of what the impact is. This would roughly impact about 3,000 people currently incarcerated. It would change or increase the average sentence length by about 1.8 years, I believe. So that's an additional 1.8 years that they'll be serving, and it's highly likely that these people, I would say 99%, they will be serving in local jails, given their profile. So one suggestion we would like the committee to consider, and certainly Representative Villio, is that with this increase in time that may or may not be necessary, that they are the proper resources, that we can continue to expand and provide those reentry resources at the local level. That would be first and foremost protecting the JRI dollars that DOC has currently invested in, even considering potentially more attached to this, specific to this population. And we would gladly work with Representative Villio on looking at some local level places that we could house specifically this population.
In opposition and not wishing to speak is this pile of 73 cards.
There was a poll last month, a statewide poll around, that split Republicans and Democrats and independents all around Louisiana. And when asked, when presented with this statement, quote, "It does not matter whether people convicted of a nonviolent crime serves a longer sentence," exactly what this bill does. "What matters most is that when they complete their time, they are less likely to reoffend." 70% of people in Louisiana agree with that. All right, and so I don't think this reflects the will of people in Louisiana about how we handle nonviolent offenses either.
Since 2017, nonviolent property crimes have decreased in Louisiana. So since we have started returning people to their communities and providing them both resources while incarcerated and community resources once they return home, we know that nonviolent offenders, regardless of what offense they are on, are in fact recidivating at a lower rate. So JRI is working, and JRI is working for those who it's intended to work for. And I think what we need to do is continue to invest in those community programs that are going to support the people that need the help the most. So I would also echo that, yes, this is a population that is cause for concern. However, how we address that, I think, is where I would disagree with Representative Villio and the intentions of this bill. We need more community service providers and more community service or more community-based opportunities to prevent recidivism. We also know that many individuals age out of any criminality. And so when you are at that fourth offense, if you have the support when you come back to your community, we would acknowledge that we want to keep them there. And the best way to do that is not by having them incarcerated longer. So as a JRI service provider in the community, I have gone through Tiger training, the assessment tool that DOC uses to determine if someone is at high risk of recidivism or high need for community services. And that's how they may or may not be placed into some of these programs or offerings.
This bill actually is not just a JRI rollback. It takes us back to before 2017. In terms of the numbers, it's going to double the amount of time that people serve. That's incredibly expensive. In Louisiana, we have a terrible raft of social problems in terms of infant mortality, maternal mortality, education issues, economic issues. We have consistently been in the highest in incarceration, if not in the highest. Maybe we go back and forth with Mississippi a little bit here and there, but always up there, and still always up there in crime too. The stuff doesn't work. Keeping people in prison longer on nonviolent crimes is a waste of money, a waste of resources, and serves no rehabilitative or deterrent result whatsoever. So that for that reason and many others, I'm against this bill.
I'd love to actually see the list of crimes and what the convictions are. I think, as was said, we're going to see exactly where these things really kind of stem from and what kind of repeated behavior we're talking about. It's not obviously, armed robberies if you're on your fourth nonviolent offense. And this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so the problem with having an untreated mental health issue is you're constantly getting in trouble because you're really having a hard time doing what you're supposed to be doing to stay out of other people's way. And, 2018, 68% of the people in Baton Rouge, the voters, that is, not just the people, who are usually a more conservative slice of the people, 68% voted for a mental health diversion space, the Bridge Center. Millions of dollars. That's a landslide. I don't know how many of y'all won with 68%. I hope you did. But that is a landslide victory, and that was what the people want. And they want investments in the community. They want investments in alternatives. And to throw, I think Mike was saying about $200 million, to throw that into incarceration with the caveat of we can't really treat people in the local jails where we're putting people. It's really just pushing off the problem, and it's not going to solve anything. So whether it's pay me now or pay me later, that's going to be a problem. So I think if you saw what the crimes were, on that fourth nonviolent offense where you're actually getting a relatively small enough sentence to only get a 1.8 year increase, somebody that the judge is probably seeing over and over again, this judge has it in their discretion to make adjustments to that sentence, and they probably are giving them what feels as a lenient sentence, knowing full well about the parole options and the good time, and knowing full well, too, that you don't earn good time when you're really getting in trouble. If you're going in there and you're in solitary confinement, you're not getting the good time, you're losing good time. And so I think that this is really a misguided effort. And if people really want to work on mental health bills to try to get treatment for people, there's definitely other ways to go about it other than holding them in prison longer. Thank you.
I'm familiar with the poll. One of the witnesses testified about, and this bill does reflect the will of the people and that poll. They don't want longer sentences for this class of offenders if they're not recidivating. And relative to, I believe it was Ms. Whittington, she's absolutely wrong. The data shows that JRI has not affected the population, this population of offenders. The reality is the bulk of these crimes, while they're considered nonviolent crimes, so-called property crimes, are burglaries which result in the theft of guns. People need to get their head out of the sand in that regard. And what is never talked about when we talk about costs is the cost of rearrest, investigators, and prosecutions are not considered, nor is the cost of adjudication at the local level. And so I believe that this bill really does affect that very population. We're hearing about mental health. This bill affects that very population that needs to stay in jail longer in order to benefit from the programs that the proponents of JRI tout, and I would ask for your favorable passage.
Rep. Vilio has made, this is not amended, right? This is, okay.
It's not.
Rep. Vilio has made a motion to report House Bill 70 favorably. Is there any opposition to reporting House Bill 70 favorably? Seeing none, the matter will be reported favorably.